Hello, you join me on the inside of the new Haval H6 Hybrid. Very exciting. We're actually shooting this before the car launches in a couple of weeks' time. And they've just delivered it, and because of our hectic shoot schedule, we only have today to film it. And so I've just jumped in the car. You join me as I figure things out. Now the plan today is to do an economy run. We're going to go through Cape Town, take in some urban city centre, around the peninsula, get a coffee in Hout Bay, and then take the highway back. So it's a nice mixed road, because let's face it, what is the number one benefit of a hybrid car that's driving you towards purchasing a hybrid vehicle? And it's fuel consumption. That's what everyone cares about. Otherwise you just buy a normal car. So today we are going to try and get close to this car's claim, maybe even beat it. Let's see how it goes. So Haval claims 5.2 litres to the 100 for this car. Now, to put that into perspective, this car's only rival is the Toyota RAV4, and Toyota claims 4.8 litres to the 100. So right off the bat, we should be using a little bit more fuel in here than the Toyota Hybrid, but let's see what we can do. I think I figured out how to reset everything. Yeah, everything is blank. Everything's on zero. So AFE, average fuel economy, is set to dashes, and IFE, instant fuel economy, is currently on zero. The car is currently on. We have half a battery, we have a full tank of fuel, and I have a BioPlus sachet. Very important. The engine just came on.
Dream, search, drive. Cars.co.za.
Budget insurance. Affordable because you can't afford not to.
So let me tell you all about this new Haval H6 Hybrid. I bet you the first thing you want to know about is the price, so let's get that out of the way. 669,000 Rand will get you one of these. There's only one spec, it's the Ultra Luxury, which is one above the Super Luxury, which you can buy already on the market. And it's fully loaded. There's not a single box you can tick. I'm going to try and get through all of the extras and features that this car has. It's a significant list. But at 669,000, let's compare that to the only competition this car has, and that is the Toyota RAV4. So there are two grades of RAV4 that you can buy, and one starts at just under this, 663, and the other one is 75,000 Rand more than this at 744. So there's the pricing. They've obviously come in, try to be bang on with the Toyota RAV4. Now, even though the pricing is pretty much bang on here, the spec levels are quite mismatched. So if you were to buy a similarly priced RAV4, the bottom end RAV4, you would be missing a lot of spec that you would get in here in this ultra luxury H6. And if you went up to the top end RAV4, they would be much more closely matched for your money, extra 75k, but there'd still be a few little things missing, like for instance the lane center keeping, which is a very impressive technology at this price point. Now this is perfect. Look at this, bumper to bumper traffic. We are flowing though, doing about 40 k's an hour, and this is what you might do in your Haval H6 Hybrid. You'll probably get on a highway and sit in some traffic. Very exciting. I basically have spent my entire life trying to avoid traffic, and now I've purposely put myself in it for science so that you can benefit from my pain. But while I'm sitting in this traffic, it gives me the perfect opportunity to tell you more things about this Haval H6 Hybrid. Under the bonnet and my backside and in the boot is a combination drive of petrol motor, electric motor, and a battery. Now the battery is quite small. It's only a 1.8 kilowatt hour battery, which strikes me as very small. But then again, I am not an engineer. I imagine Haval did significant amounts of testings with different size batteries, and it seems like that is the optimum size. Now keep in mind that if you go for a large battery, then you've just got more weight to carry around, and then potentially the fuel saving benefits that you would have had start to be diminished. That is one reason for going for a smaller battery. Now the petrol motor in this arrangement is a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder petrol chower, and that pushes out about 110 kilowatts on its own and about 230 newtons. Now, the electric motor is actually quite impressive. It pushes out 69 kilowatts and 300 newton meters of torque. Now that means your combined output here is 179 kilowatts and 530 newton meters of torque. Now to put that into perspective, that's the same sort of power output that you'd get from a Golf GTI, the new one, the Golf 8. But a Golf 8 GTI is 350 newton meters. We're talking about an extra almost 200 newton meters of torque here. That's like a whole car. It's the whole car's worth of torque. And all of that power and all of that torque is going through the front wheels only. So unlike the current RAV4, which is an all-wheel drive car, this is just a front wheel drive car, and sending over 500 newtons through the front wheels alone doesn't strike me as a particularly great idea. I'm not sure why this car needs so much power and torque. It seems, at least on the surface, that your fuel consumption would be better if you just had less power. Maybe, I don't know, but they seem to have gone this sort of powerful route, and that's what we end up with. Wow, we really are sitting in traffic, eh? That's what I came to work today to do, just to sit in traffic. Very nice. Now again, to put those power figures into context, if you compare it to the RAV, that car is really detuned. It's got a decent amount of kilowatts, 169 if memory serves, but its torque figure is very, very low. You're looking at 220 newton meters of torque, whereas here, just from the electric motor alone, you've got more than that. And what that means is that the driving experience it feels a bit more electric than it does in the RAV4, or a bit more electric biased, should I say, than it does in the RAV4. Now, if I'm not mistaken, unlike the RAV, which you can force into electric mode, this one does it on its own. You can't tell it to just be in electric mode. But the RAV, anyway, you can tell it what you like and it overrides the system. Oh, it is nice just relying on that electric motor to get you going. It's so nice and smooth. Right, so update so far. We've left the office. We have traveled a mighty 6.2 kilometers, and average consumption so far 6.2 liters to the 100. So we are getting closer to the 5.2 claim. 6.1, it's getting better. Quite a lot of the tech in here is really impressive. So you've got adaptive cruise control, radar guided cruise, then you have lane keep assist, but then you also have lane center keeping, LCK, lots of acronyms. And another tech on top of that is traffic sign recognition. So if you perhaps just missed the speed sign of the area you're going through, it puts it on your display for you in front of you. This is quite interesting. I'm at 53 k's an hour now, and we were on full battery mode. And apparently it's meant to stop battery mode at 50. So it does seem like in the right conditions, with the right throttle input and right road gradient, you can stay in EV mode quite long. So to make this test more real world as well, I'm driving with the aircon on the whole time. And now I've added an extra element, and that is the seat ventilation, because seat ventilation is one of the best inventions in modern cars. It's one of the best inventions that mankind has ever come up with, actually. you know. I mean, it's not terribly tricky. You poke some holes in the leather and you put a fan in the seat. But I mean, who thought of that, you know? Freaking genius, man. So I think it's important to note with this economy run that we're doing that I'm not trying to do an economy run, because that sort of defeats the purpose, right? If I drive so carefully that it doesn't represent what you would do in the real world, then what is the point? So I am keeping up with traffic. I'm not doing anything too aggressive. I'm not going overly slowly. Right now I'm behind a truck, which is something that happens in the real world. There's nothing you can do about it. And I think the key thing here is to just do a nice mix of roads. So we've done some city, now we're doing some coastal, which I suppose you won't do up in Joburg or Gauteng if you're watching this. But, you know, it's a 60 zone, and it's, I suppose, the same as driving through a suburb, really. It's the same speed limit, intersections, pedestrians, trucks, buses, people coming out of their driveways. Right, situation update. We have traveled nearly 20 Ks, and I'm averaging 5.6 liters to the 100. Oh, just dropped down to 5.5. So we are within spitting distance of the claimed fuel economy here, which is very nice. That's great. That's kind of the point of this whole day. So glad it's working out. Now, what I'm finding impressive about this car is that when the petrol motor comes on, so if you set off, you're in battery mode, and then the petrol motor kicks in, and there's very little vibration or anything to tell you that the petrol motor's come on. So here's battery, and let's see when the petrol motor comes in. Still battery, up to 35 k's an hour now. Up to 40 k's an hour now, still battery. Now we're in energy recovery because I've lifted off. Still no petrol motor. So, you know, the car wants to use its electric motor as much as possible. That's the most efficient way to get around. Still electric. I mean, we've gone some distance now. Energy recovery, still electric. We're up to 50 k's an hour now. Have to give a bit of throttle here. Okay, tandem drive. There we go. I mean, there was just no indication that the petrol motor had turned on except for the little infographic telling me what's going on over here. And so all of this contributes to an experience because you sort of tune the petrol motor out. I mean, you can feel a little bit of vibration coming through the chassis, you know, nothing exceptional. But because you sort of naturally tune out the sound of engines if you're used to driving, I'm mostly getting the feeling like this is a mostly electric vehicle. So we haven't been on the highway yet. That I think is going to be the big differentiator here. And I'm looking forward to that because as South Africans we do a lot of open road driving. And I suppose one of the reasons why you don't really hear the petrol motor that much is because it's not actually working very hard. Because it's got that massive torque assist low down from 0 RPM. Petrol motor doesn't have to work too hard, so it doesn't strain. You don't hear it straining at the top of the rev range. Righty-ho, the interior of the H6 Hybrid. Now let's start with the key. It's quite a nice key actually. Quite like that. It looks fancy enough for me. I think if I spent all this money, I'd be relatively happy with that key. And there is a nice place for your keys and your wallets and all the rest of it. That goes there, but if you need to turn it into a drinks holder, there's a flippy up thing. Ha! Look at that, which will hold your drinks in place. I quite like that. And that is sort of the theme of this cabin. It's quite well thought out. Everything is where I suppose you'd want it to be. So you've got your wireless phone charger up here. That's very, very easy to get your phone to. But then down here, there's lots of space for, I don't know, maybe a handbag or something like that to be out of sight. And you've also got two USB ports down there and a 12 volt. You also have a USB port up here for a dash cam as well. There's lots of nice little touches. Like in here, there's a little clip underneath the bin door for something important. And then you get a big bin as well. Lots of storage areas in the front of the cabin. Quite impressive. Now what you will notice is there aren't very many buttons, but there are the important ones. So your aircon is one touch, that's quite nice, on and off. The screen has an off button, but it just goes to a different state of on, which seems useful. And because there are no buttons, you have to then dig into the menus to find some of the more useful items. So for instance, just changing driving modes, you have to go into the menus. If you want to switch on your heated and ventilated seats, that's also in here. There's no button for that, but there are heated and ventilated seats as standard. That's quite nice. Part of the system here is the latest wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is really nice. And because you've got this massive 12-inch screen, it's a really useful way of using those two technologies. In front of the driver, heads-up display, quite nice. And then my instrument cluster, which I think has been slightly redesigned because I find it less fussy than the first time I drove the H6, but it really does give you a lot of information. There's no rev counter for the petrol engine, which is similar to the RAV4. You just get power and you get an infographic displaying what the car is doing at any one time. Electric windows all around, and what's quite nice is they're all one-touch windows. They're all auto up and down as well. And then your panoramic sunroof, which is a bit of a hallmark of the H6. It is a really nice big panoramic sunroof with a electric blind. It is overall a very nice interior, very modern looking and absolutely feature rich at this price point. And into the back seats we go, where we immediately notice that there is a huge amount of legroom back here. This car is a bit longer than the Toyota RAV4, and you can see it when you're sitting in the back seat. So that's my driving position. I'm about 5'9" or about 175. So I mean, if I was 6 foot tall driving and 6 foot tall, I could probably sit behind myself as well. That's how much space there is. Back seats are quite well appointed as well. You've got 2 USB ports down here, 2 air vents, and your 2 drinks holders, and there's a proper third safety belt for your middle passenger. And while I'm back here, I thought this was maybe a good time to tell you about this car's safety systems, because they are quite extensive. So this car has been tested by ANCAP, which is the Australian thing where they smash cars into walls, and it got 5 stars, and it also scored very well for child protection as well, 88% for the back seat. And just listen to this list of safety features: automatic emergency braking with pedestrian, cyclist and junction assist, lane keep assist, lane center keeping, lane departure warning, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, driver attention monitoring, traffic sign recognition, traffic jam assist, safe exit warning, front side and curtain, plus a front center airbag, so 7 airbags, surround view camera, front and rear parking sensors, and a tire pressure monitoring system. That's what they managed to cram into this car, and it's all yours for the purchase price. There isn't a single option box that you can tick on this ultra luxury model. The boot. Now, first glance, it doesn't look very deep to me, and we're going to do our standard cooler box test to test if you can fit a cooler box between the boot floor and the parcel shelf. I don't think this is going to go very well. Let's see. Oof, no. I wonder, it should go over. Will it go over? No, it won't, because it's got guide rails. I don't remember the last time a car failed the cooler box test. This is quite a moment. Let's take a moment here, guys. Just appreciate this. And let me show you why it doesn't fit. It's because there's a battery under here. So this is a foam covering with some of your important things, towing eye and that sort of thing. There's no spare wheel because there's quite a bit of the drivetrain happening underneath here, and the battery is just towards the back seats. So you don't get run flats either. You get a compressor and some tire weld as well, which will be fun at night on the side of a highway. But that is the reason why the boot is quite shallow. A nice touch though, which you couldn't get before on Haval H6s, is that the tailgate is electric. Maybe. Cooperate. Right, dear viewers, I've been looking forward to this part of the trip because I have a feeling that this is going to challenge the H6 Hybrid more than what we've been doing this morning. So this morning has been relatively slow speed. The highest speed we got to was about 80, in an 80 zone. We've done 46 Ks and we're averaging 6.1 to the 100 now. There was a very hilly section coming out of Hout Bay, and that quite badly affected the fuel consumption actually. We were at 5.6 and it jumped up to 6.1. Now, if I remember correctly, when I spent some time in the RAV4 E4, that car was averaging 6.1. So we're pretty much bang on with the RAV here, and real world 6 to the 100. I'd be pretty happy with that for a car this size, with this much comfort and this much luxury. I think that's pretty decent. Now we're going to take the highway back to the office. So now I'm noticing that the instantaneous fuel consumption is actually all the way up at about 11. And I think that's indicative of the fact that now the fact that you have quite a sort of small underpowered petrol motor that's doing a lot of the work, we're now using that motor most of the time. And my overall impressions is that this is just a lovely car to drive. I've spent the last 2 months in a 3 million rand electric car, so my standards of ride quality and noise, vibration and harshness are very high at the moment, and jumping into this hasn't been unpleasant at all. The ride quality is really good. There's not much tire roar, there's not much road noise at all, there's almost no wind noise. It's a nice place to be. It's a quiet, relaxing drive, and of course being in electric mode half the time just adds to that. So where does this new Haval H6 Ultra Luxury Hybrid fit into the Haval H6 range? Well, at 669,000, it's about 80,000 rand more than the top spec super luxury normal 2-litre DCT all-wheel drive H6, but it's about 190,000 rand more than the bottom of the range premium H6. So you can get yourself an H6 for like 200k less than this. And if you consider it that way, then maybe this is a little bit of a tough sell. It's going to have to save you a lot of money on fuel to pay up for that price difference. And on paper at least, you should be saving, well, Haval thinks you'll save 48% on your fuel bill. They claim 5.2 for this, and they claim 8.3 to the 100 for the normal Haval H6. So let's call it 50%. That's the potential to reduce your fuel bill by going for this hybrid option. And that's pretty appealing. If you do a lot of driving, that's potentially going to save you a lot of money at the pumps. Where it remains to be seen how the hybrid will play out is in terms of used car demand and how this car is going to retain its value over time and what you might get for it when you come to sell it. Now, if you compare it to what's out there in the market, there literally is just the Toyota RAV4 to compare it to. And I'd say the only thing that car maybe has on top of this is the all-wheel drive. This is just a front-wheel drive hybrid. But what this does have going for it is a lot of tech. It really is quite a tech fest in here, especially in terms of the intelligent driving, the intelligent parking, the lane center keeping, etc. That's all pretty impressive stuff, which you just won't really find elsewhere. But in the ways that really matter, the RAV4 is pretty close on spec. 7 airbags, radar guided cruise control, although you do have to spend to get to that higher trim level on the RAV4. And if we compare your backup and your warranty here, it's a little bit of a mixed bag compared to the RAV4. So the RAV4's vehicle warranty is 3-year 100,000, this is 5-year 100,000. The service plan is 6 services or 90,000 Ks on the RAV4, whereas this is 5-year 60,000 Ks. So it's a bit shorter in terms of kilometers. And then your battery warranty is a bit shorter here as well. So it's 8-year 195,000 on the RAV4, and here it's 8-year 150,000 on the battery. So we are approaching the office now. There's not much opportunity for this consumption to get better. And what is the real world consumption that we have achieved? 6.1 liters to the 100. That is really not bad for a real world average. And I think it is exactly the same as what we were averaging when we had the RAV4 E4 hybrid on test. I think compared to a normal H6, you probably average about 9-10 maybe, depending on how you drive. So that is a good 50% better, at least. Is my maths right? Is my maths correct? I think it's correct. Gosh, this is nice and smooth though. It is a really nice, it is a really pleasant experience driving this car. I've enjoyed it very much. Steering is light as a feather. Suspension's well set up, nice and comfy, but not floaty or wafty or wallowy. Lots of good adjectives there. Right everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this trip around Cape Town with me as we've done this economy run in this H6. As I mentioned, 6.1 to the 100, but it has been better. The best I saw over the route was 5.5 to the 100. Would have liked to do a bit more highway driving, but I think this has been pretty representative of a decent day in traffic and commuting through the suburbs that you might do on a day-to-day basis. Quite exciting to have another hybrid on our roads from another manufacturer. You've only been able to get them from Toyota up until now. So I'm quite impressed and quite chuffed with Haval that they've brought this to our market. Nice going. It's always exciting to have some new drivetrains available for the South African consumer. Okay, I'm out. I'm going to go get myself a salmi. Very hungry. This has been quite hungry work today. Lots of concentrating. Cars.co.za is so much more than just a YouTube channel. You've got to check out our app. It's been downloaded over 1 million times in the South African Android store alone. The links are in the description below, and I promise you it is the easiest way to find your next car.
Budget insurance. Affordable because you can't afford not to.
Cars.co.za.